Here's something that I think about a lot. Most people are not lazy. They're not stupid. They're not unlucky. They work. They try. They have real goals and real dreams and real intentions. And yet most people end up average, not because they chose it, but because there's something happening beneath the surface of their daily life, something quiet and invisible that keeps pulling them back to the middle no matter how hard they push forward. And the worst part? They usually blame themselves. They think it's a character flaw. They think they're just not built for more. They think other people have something they don't. But they're wrong. And I want to show you why. Staying average is not about ability. It is not about talent or luck or connections or starting position. It is about something specific, something that the Stoics identified 2,000 years ago, and that most people today still don't have a name for. Once you see it clearly, once you can actually name it and recognize it in your own life, it loses most of its power over you. Stay with me until the end of this video. I'm going to give you a single daily practice, simple, concrete, takes less than 5 minutes, that will begin to break the pattern that is keeping you average, not someday. Starting today, welcome to Season 2 of the Stoic Reset. We're calling this season the Stoic Mind, because everything we're going to explore here lives inside your head. In Season 1, we built the foundation. We figured out why life wasn't moving forward. We protected our attention. We learned to work with our emotions instead of being driven by them. We built discipline, and we redefined what wealth actually means. When all of that was about the outer game. Season 2 is about the inner game, because here's what I noticed at the end of Season 1. You can have all the right knowledge, all the right tools, all the right practices, and still not break through. Why? Because of what's happening in your mind. The stories, the limits you've accepted without ever questioning them. The quiet voice that says, people like me don't do things like that. That voice is what Season 2 is about, and this episode is where it starts. If you're new here, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Each episode of this series builds on the last, and Season 2 goes even deeper than Season 1. You want to be here for all of it. Part 1. The real reason. It's not what you think. If you asked most people why they're not where they want to be in life, they'd give you one of a few answers. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money to start. I don't have the right connections. I wasn't given the same opportunities. I tried and it didn't work out. All of those things can be true, and none of them is the real reason. The real reason most people stay average is this: they have accepted a story about what is possible for them, and they live inside that story as if it were a fact. The story sounds like this: I'm the kind of person who isn't very confident. I'm the kind of person who always starts things and doesn't finish them. I'm not really a morning person. I've never been good with money. I'm not as smart as the people who make it. I would if I could, but I just can't. Recognize any of those? Most of us have a version, and we repeat it so often, and we live so consistently inside it, that at some point, it stops feeling like a story and starts feeling like the truth. But it isn't the truth. It is a habit of thought, and habits can be changed. Epictetus was born a slave. He was not given opportunities. He was not given a head start. He was owned. And yet, he became one of the most influential thinkers in history. Not because his circumstances changed. They didn't for a long time. But because he understood something that most people never figure out. People are not disturbed by the things that happen to them, but by their opinions about those things. Epictetus, Enchiridion. Your life is not being shaped by what has happened to you. It is being shaped by what you believe about what has happened to you. It is being shaped by the story you built from those events. And the story is not the event. The story is your interpretation, and interpretations can change. Epictetus didn't change his circumstances by positive thinking. He changed them by rigorously, ruthlessly examining the beliefs he was carrying. The ones that were limiting him, the ones that weren't true. And when he found one that was false, when he could see clearly that the belief was not a fact, but a habit, He let it go. That is the beginning of breaking out of average. Part 2. The comfort zone is not a place. You've heard the phrase, get out of your comfort zone, so many times that it probably doesn't even register anymore. It's become one of those things people say that means everything and nothing at the same time. But I want to describe it differently, because when I describe it this way, I think you'll recognize it immediately. The comfort zone is not a place, it is a feeling. Specifically, it is the feeling of safety that comes from doing only what you already know how to do, only in the situations where you already know how to act, only around people who already see you a certain way. It feels safe because it is predictable. You know what's coming. You know how to handle it. Nobody is going to look at you and see you fail. Nobody is going to be surprised, including you. And the problem is not that this feeling exists. The problem is when your entire life is organized around protecting it. Think about this. Is there something you want to do? A career move, a creative project, a relationship you want to change, a version of yourself you want to become, that you haven't started because something about it feels unsafe? Not physically dangerous. Just uncertain, exposed, like you might fail or look stupid or not be enough. That feeling is the comfort zone protecting itself. It is not wisdom. It is not caution. It is the mind doing exactly what it was designed to do. Keep you safe. Even when staying safe is the most dangerous thing you can do. Marcus Aurelius dealt with this his entire life. He led armies. He made decisions that affected millions of people. He had real reasons to be afraid, real uncertainty, real stakes. And yet what you see in the Meditations over and over is not a man who had conquered fear. It's a man who kept choosing to act despite it. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. But most importantly, if it is not right not to do it, do it. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. That last part is the one that gets overlooked. If it is not right not to do it. In other words, if you know you should do this thing but fear and comfort are keeping you away from it, do it anyway. The discomfort is not a reason to stop. It is information that you are at the edge of where you've been. And the edge is exactly where growth happens. Average is not a destination. It is the result of choosing comfort over growth, again and again, in small daily moments, until the choices accumulate into a life that is smaller than the person living it. When Michael Jordan was cut from his high school varsity basketball team, he had two choices. He could accept the story the situation was offering him. You're not good enough. Or he could reject it and build a different one. He went home that day, went to his room, and cried. He felt it. He didn't pretend it didn't hurt. And then he decided that this moment was not a verdict. It was information. Information that he needed to work harder. Information that his current level wasn't where he needed to be yet. He became the greatest basketball player of all time. Not because of his talent. There were other talented players. Because of the story he chose to live in after the moment that would have stopped most people. The Stoics understood this completely. They called it choosing your judgment, not denying the difficulty, not pretending the obstacle isn't there, but refusing to let the obstacle be the last word about what's possible. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Part 3. The specific patterns that keep people average. This is the most common one, and it is devastating because it sounds so reasonable. I'll start when I know more, when I have more savings, when I'm more confident, when the kids are older, when things calm down. When the moment is right. Here is what nobody tells you. The feeling of readiness is not a starting line. It is a result. You don't feel ready before you start. You feel ready because you started. The confidence comes from the doing, not the thinking about doing. Seneca wrote about this with real impatience. He saw people all around him delaying their lives, always preparing to live rather than living, always planning the better version of themselves that would finally begin. And he called it what it is. While we are postponing, life speeds by. Seneca, Letters to Lucilius. Every day you wait to feel ready is a day you spend practicing waiting. And the longer you practice it, the more natural it feels. the more it becomes who you are. You stop being someone who is waiting to start. You become someone who waits. That is an identity. And identities are hard to leave behind. You've felt this. The days when everything flows. When you sit down to work, and ideas come easily, and time disappears, and at the end of the session you can't believe how much you got done. Those days feel like proof that you're on the right track. And then there are all the other days. The flat days, the stuck days. The days when nothing comes, nothing feels right. The work is hard and slow and unsatisfying. And on those days, many people stop. They decide today isn't the day. They wait for the inspiration to come back. But here is what separates the people who build extraordinary lives from the people who stay average. The average person works when they feel like it. The exceptional person works whether or not they feel like it, not because they're tougher or more disciplined by nature, because they understand that the flat days are part of the process. The boring repetition is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the actual work. The inspired days are the reward for showing up on all the flat ones. Easy, Epictetus called this the practice, not the performance. The daily, unglamorous showing up, again and again, that builds the thing you're trying to become. This one is subtle, and it might be the most powerful of all. Think about the people who were around you growing up. Your parents, your teachers, the adults who shaped your early understanding of the world. Did they believe that big things were possible? Did they live as if life had real possibilities, real upside, real opportunity? Or did they live smaller? Did the conversation in your house tend toward caution, limits, and the practical reasons why things don't work out? I'm not saying this to blame anyone. Most people who pass on limited beliefs do it because they themselves were handed limited beliefs. It's not cruelty. It's just how beliefs travel. But here's the thing. At some point, you have to examine those beliefs and decide which ones are actually yours, which ones are true, and which ones you've just been carrying because they were handed to you before you were old enough to question them. Seneca wrote in one of his letters about a man he knew who had enormous potential and was living a small life because he had grown up around small thinking. And Seneca's advice was direct. Choose your own influences. Choose carefully who you spend time with. Because the people around you don't just affect your mood. They set the boundaries of what you believe is possible. Show me who you spend time with, and I will show you who you will become. Seneca, you are not stuck because of what happened to you. You might be stuck because of what the people around you believed about what was possible, and you absorb those beliefs so deeply that they feel like your own. They're not. You can choose differently, and you can start right now. Part 4. What breaking out of average actually looks like. Here is something that might disappoint you at first, but will actually make this easier. Breaking out of average doesn't start with a dramatic decision, or a life-changing moment, or a bold leap. It starts with one small thing, done consistently, over time. The Stoics called this the practice of virtue in the small moments. And we talked about this in Season 1, Episode 4. The hidden power of discipline. The person who always hits snooze is not just avoiding mornings. They're practicing the habit of overriding their own decisions when discomfort arrives. And that habit spreads. The reverse is also true. When you do the small, hard thing, when you get up when you said you would, when you finish what you started, when you say the honest thing instead of the easy thing, you are voting for a different version of yourself. And over time, those votes add up. They become an identity. Average is an accumulation of small surrenders. Extraordinary is an accumulation of small choices to not surrender. Now, we talked about Mandela in Season 1. But there's a dimension of his story I didn't mention then. That is exactly right for this episode. During his 27 years in prison, Mandela made a decision that nobody could see from the outside. He decided that the way he used his mind while locked up would be the thing that determined who he would be when he got out. He studied law, he read philosophy, he thought carefully about what kind of leader he wanted to be, what kind of South Africa he wanted to help build. He did this not because there was any certainty he would ever get the chance. He did it because he understood that the inner work was the work, that who you were becoming on the inside was the foundation of everything that could happen on the outside. Most people live this backward. They wait for the outside circumstances to change before they do the inner work. Mandela did the inner work regardless of the outside circumstances. And when the circumstances finally changed, he was ready. That is the Stoic path out of average. Not waiting for the conditions to be right. Doing the work now, in whatever conditions you have, because the work itself is the thing that creates the person who can handle what comes next. Here's what I want you to see. In Season 1, Episode 3, we talked about how emotions make your decisions when you're not paying attention. The stories that trap people in average are emotional, not rational. They feel true. They feel obvious. They feel like just the way things are. That's an emotion creating a judgment. And we have a method for that now. In Season 1, Episode 4, we built the daily discipline structure. That structure is the engine for breaking out of average one small choice at a time. The commitment, the session, the close, all of that applies directly here. Season 2 takes everything from Season 1 and goes inside the mind that generates the patterns. Because you can have all the right practices and still have a mind that quietly undermines them. Episode 2 of this season will go deep on fear. The specific fear that is probably the largest single thing keeping you where you are right now. Episode 3 tackles overthinking, which is one of the most sophisticated ways average protects itself, and so on. Stay with the series. This is where it gets serious. The practical solution, the belief audit here, is what I promised you. The single daily practice that, done consistently, will begin to break the pattern of average. It is built on the Stoic principle of examining your impressions, the same tool we introduced in Season 1, Episode 3. But today we're applying it to beliefs, not just emotions. It takes 5 minutes every morning before you start the day. Here's how it works. 1. Catch the limiting thought. At some point this morning, maybe when the alarm goes off, maybe when you look in the mirror, maybe when you think about something you need to do that makes you slightly uncomfortable, a limiting thought will appear. Something like, I'm not good at this. This probably won't work. People like me don't do things like that. I'll do it later when I'm more ready. Write it down exactly as it appeared. Word for word. Don't clean it up. The raw version is the true version. 2. Ask, is this actually true? Not, is this how I feel? Feelings are real. But is this a fact? If someone asked you to prove it, to give real evidence that this belief accurately describes what is possible for you, could you? Or is it actually a story? Something you heard. Something you experienced once and turned into a permanent rule. Something someone else believed and you absorbed. Most limiting beliefs, when you actually examine them with honest eyes, turn out to be stories that were never tested. They just felt true. 3. Replace it with a question. Don't try to replace the limiting belief with an affirmation. That feels fake, and it usually doesn't stick. Instead, replace it with a genuine question, not, I am great at this, but what would I need to do to get better at this? Not, I will definitely succeed. But what's the smallest possible version of this I could try today to find out what's actually possible? Questions open the mind. They invite exploration instead of defending a position. They move you from a closed story to an open one. Catch it, question it, replace it with a question. That's the whole practice, 5 minutes every day. And what will happen over time is this. The limiting thoughts will start to show up with less force, not because you've suppressed them, but because you've developed the habit of not just accepting them. You've built the reflex of examining rather than obeying. This is what Epictetus was teaching in his school in Nicopolis. what Marcus Aurelius was practicing every morning in his journal, what Seneca kept returning to in his letters. Not the absence of limiting thoughts, they never promised that, but the skill of not being ruled by them. Average is what happens when you live unexamined. Breaking out of average is what happens when you start examining. Man, you have to make the effort to find out what you are capable of. Epictetus outro. Before you go, I want you to do this right now. In the comments, write one limiting belief you've been carrying that you are choosing to question starting today. Something you've told yourself about what you're capable of that, if you're honest, you've never actually tested. Write it here, in public. Because naming it out loud, or in writing, where someone can see it, is the beginning of examining it. You're not claiming it's false. You're just saying, I'm going to look at this more honestly. That one step separates the people who break out from the people who stay where they are. Think of someone in your life who has more potential than they're using. Someone whose situation might be average, but who you believe is not average. Someone who tells themselves a story about what's possible that you can see is smaller than the truth. Send them this video, not to tell them they're wrong, just because maybe this is the thing that opens the question. Maybe this is the conversation that starts something. That is the most stoic thing I can ask you to do. Use what you've learned to do something for someone else. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because episode 2 of season 2 is coming, and it is about the specific fear that is probably the single biggest thing keeping you in place. It connects directly to everything we talked about today. You don't want to miss it. I want to leave you with something. At some point in your life, you started believing something about what you were capable of, and that belief became a wall, not because someone built it from the outside, but because you stopped questioning whether it was real. The Stoics spent their entire lives examining those walls, not trying to destroy them by force, by asking, is this real? Is this actually true? Or is this just a story I've been living in for so long that it started to feel like the floor? Because here's the thing about walls that turn out to be stories. Once you see them clearly, once you really see them for what they are, most of them don't require that much effort to walk through. The hardest part was not being able to see them. Now you can see them. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. Most people stay average not because they're incapable of more, because they never decided they were going to be more. They never made it a real decision, a real commitment, a real daily practice. Make that decision today, and then show up tomorrow and make it again. I'll see you in episode 2.